Can everybody hear me well? That's good. Very good. Well, it's wonderful to have such a, oh, you need this, okay. It's wonderful to have this great audience today. I'm sure you're going to be very, very pleased to hear Michael Crow. I'm going to say a few more words about him in a second, but certainly let me begin by welcoming him to Georgia Tech. I want to also acknowledge that we have a wonderful turnout of many of our deans and vice provosts in here. I think the majority of them are here. Also fellow president, at least one president, John Wilson from Morehouse, and provost correct. So let me do it this way. Can everybody from the system institution stand up? Because there's provosts and presidents. Very good, wonderful. Again, we're here because we're dealing with a subject matter that is dear to all of us, the future of education. And here at Georgia Tech, some time ago, 7-8 months ago, we started this commission on creating the next in education. And this talk is part of a series of talks that we've been sponsoring to get the community thinking about a really very quickly changing landscape of education in the country. The commission has been working since last February, as I said. It's been charged or is charged in defining Georgia Tech's education for generations of the future. At the time, or at a time of major changes in the education landscape, nothing is really and truly more important. Please, I urge you all to go online, read more about the Commission's work, their research work, attend the lectures and town halls, and participate. Get involved in whatever way you can. Everybody's invited. The community as a whole needs to engage to make this successful. The Commission will continue working for at least one more year, so there's plenty of time to really and truly still come up with ideas and input into the process. In doing so, I hope you help them to really be bold. Think a little bit, as we were talking about a little earlier, a little bit at an angle of where we are in education and try to get ourselves challenged about what the future will bring and what is important for our students and generations to come. It is really truly a pleasure to welcome Michael Crow here, President of Arizona State University. I have never met President Crow, but I certainly have read a lot about him and heard him speak in different locations. He's an academic leader, educator, knowledge enterprise architect, and science and technology policy scholar. He is the 16th president of Arizona State University since 2002, long-standing. He is guiding really an extraordinary transformation of ASU into one of the nation's leading metropolitan universities and research universities. When you hear him talk, you realize how fast and honestly the leaps forward that they have taken and the risk that they have taken to bring the university to where it is. The university strives to combine the highest levels of academic experience and excellence, inclusiveness to a broad demographic and maximum demographic group, and to have the maximum societal impact. In a term he coined, and I believe it's the title of your book, or one of their books, The New American University. Under his leadership, ASU is committed to innovation, social embeddedness, and global engagement, and has quadrupled research expenditures while achieving record levels of diversity in its student body. Under his leadership, ASU has been named the nation's most innovative school by U.S. News & World Report in 2015 and 2016. President Crow was previously Executive Vice Provost of Columbia University and served as Professor of Science and Technology Policy there and Chief Strategist of its research enterprise and technology transfer operations. He is an elected member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, I should say elected fellow, and the National Academy for Public Administration, and the author of many books and articles analyzing knowledge enterprises and science and technology policy. He's here to share his thoughts. And just in the hour that I spent with him prior to coming here, I tell you, it is really, really invigorating to hear his comments. Certainly the one thing that got my blood flowing was when he said, and we're going to get better than you are. So without further ado, let me welcome President Michael Crow.
Thank you. Well, thank you. What I thought I would do is I'm going to try to walk through some ideas quickly so that we have some chance for some discussion and some dialogue. Is that too loud? Is that okay? So let me, before I walk you through this thing, Wave 5, what does that mean? Only a few of you have probably thought about the fact that we're all parts of institutions that are a product of an evolutionary process that began in the United States with the colonial colleges almost 400 years ago. Each extant version of an American idea for higher education still exists. And they're still evolving and still moving forward. And I'm going to walk you through where we are in some of this logic and what this logic means. But let me offer just really quickly a quick idea of what's gone on with the faculty and the staff at Arizona State, just to give you some sense of how can he actually say that when I walk through this, because you'll wonder what we're talking about. So since 2002, we have increased the number of graduates by threefold, the diversity of the institution by fourfold. 50% of our freshman class from Arizona are minority students. 44% of our freshman class from anywhere are minority students. Our student body is completely representative of the socioeconomic diversity of our state. 20% of our undergraduate class are from families at or below the poverty line. And our undergraduate class is 60,000 students. So that's 12,000 students at or below the poverty line. And so our objective was to have a student body actually representative of that level of diversity, and we do. As the provost indicated, we've increased our research by more than a factor of 4, approaching a factor of 5 since 2002, which has been an unbelievable achievement by our faculty. Our faculty have won 2 ERCs in the last 5 years, for example, 9 IGERTs or 10 IGERTs, I don't remember the exact number, the Interdisciplinary Graduate Research and Education Training programs, and a bunch of stuff like this that's going on. I won't walk you through all of these statistics other than to say that our faculty is the same size that it was in 2002. Almost 5 times the level of research, 3 times the number of graduates. Diversity, 6 times the number of learners. If you add in everyone taking at least a class from us online, 6 times the number of learners. And that's a function of a changed culture, the introduction of technology as a part of the core culture, not a product of the culture, not an outcome of the culture, but a tool inside the culture itself, and a transformation then around all of that about the actual design of the institution. Let me also say at the outset is that nothing that I say is to imply that any of the previous waves or existing institutions are bad. That's why I highlighted the fact that all of the waves of higher education evolution in the United States still exist. They still operate. They still have fantastic achievements. They're still evolving inside those waves, and I'll walk you through a little bit of that. Nonetheless, I think it's fair to say, and I'm going to show you some evidence to this effect, and even our present political equation as it evolves before our very eyes is somewhat reflective of this. The country has grown to a level of social, economic, and cultural complexity for which no existing set of institutions are adequately prepared to address it. None. Political institutions, colleges, universities, none. None of us are prepared. And so I'll talk a little bit about that. I don't know what happened to my light, and there we go, to my light intensity. So Wave 5, launching the next wave in higher education. Just very quickly, this just shows you a little bit since the end of the Civil War till recently, the change in bachelor's degrees awarded. It's really become an important thing. And then that being somewhat correlated to, along with other things obviously, the unbelievable growth in the American economy. Recent changes, again, end of the Civil War, but back to bachelor's degrees that they have evolved. Real and gross domestic product, also, again, what you can see is that we're becoming a highly educated nation, but unfortunately, as you'll see in some of the later data, highly educated in certain segments, highly educated from certain families, highly educated from certain family classes. So you're all aware completely, I would imagine, that if you come from, as I did, the bottom quarter of family incomes, you have an 8% chance of having a college degree in your life, regardless of your intellectual or academic capability. If you come from the bottom half of family incomes in the United States, the bottom half, which is 160 million people, twice the size of Germany, you have a 15% chance. If you come from the upper quarter of family incomes, you have about an 80% chance, even if you're in the lowest quartile of academic ability. Just process that. What does that mean? It means there might be some unfairness in the system, possibly. That unfairness that gets itself manifested in different kinds of ways. So just sort of keep that in the back of your mind. So this is a chart that we did on Google Graph. And so each little box here, this is the 13.1 million people sitting in each individual institution offering a bachelor's degree in 2014. The greener the color, the more Pell recipients. The oranger the color, the fewer the Pell recipients. So just look at it as a gradation of family income. So what you see is that huge concentrations of lower income students down here in the for-profits. Most of the students from the wealthier families are here and in a series, believe it or not, of public universities. Public universities that do not have student bodies representative of the public financial situation. They've actually become more like private universities from who attends them. They're somewhere. It's a smaller, that's probably Georgia Tech right there. That's Arizona State right here. And this is anybody offering a bachelor's degree. So these big behemoths here are Broward Community College, Dade Community College, Valencia Community College. They don't offer that many bachelor's degrees. But this is just to show you the spectrum of the diversity, the numbers of institutions. This is every institution. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can see the income distributions. But let's take a look at performance. Just under 2 million degrees produce bachelor's degrees. This is Arizona State in this corner. The greener the color, the higher the graduation rate. The redder the color, the lower the graduation rate. The for-profits, that's the University of Phoenix in the bottom. There may be a completely new set of parameters working relative to for-profit universities as of about midnight last night. And I happen to live where the University of Phoenix is headquartered, and so we're very familiar with them in every intimate way you don't want to know about. And so you get a sense here of what? 6-year graduation rates are highly variable. So these darker publics over here only admit students with A averages from high school. Every single one of them, including this institution. They don't admit students that come in with B averages. There's a few institutions that still admit students with B averages. Arizona State, Purdue, Central Florida, Kansas, a handful, just a handful. It's less than 10 of the actual research-intensive universities. And so what you see with this is, look at this graduation rate issue. Look, as you move to the smaller sizes, you've got all this variability. This is not what you'd consider a highly efficient set of institutions, because let me give you the net outcome of all of this. So since 1980, the federal government of the United States has spent about $500 billion on Pell Grants. So just one of the mechanisms by which taxpayers support families to move forward. So who wants to take a gander at what percentage of Pell Grant recipients have a college diploma or a certificate since the founding of the program? It's less than half. That's unbelievable. That's $500 billion of expenditures. And also the seeding and the seedlings of some very angry people. Very angry people. You go to college and don't finish college for whatever reason, you're not happy. It actually is a lifelong, life-altering outcome, almost as significant as those that finish college. What do they call someone that doesn't finish college? What's the word? Let's hear it. Dropouts. dropouts. You are forever a college dropout. So this little chart, and this argument here is the imperative for innovation. This little chart is this chart, now condensed down so I can move it into the future. So some people say that we need to produce more college degrees. Well, if all we needed to do was just produce a few more college degrees to deal with population growth between now and 2030, all we'd have to add is this gold bar. We're not even doing that well now, so we do about as poorly as we're doing net overall by adding the gold bar. But the problem is, how many of you have read, I'm being facetious if not sarcastic, how many of you have read that we might need to produce more college graduates than we're presently able to produce? How many of you have read that there might not be as many jobs for people that don't have some kind of college degree down the road? Has anybody been reading this? Well, that's how many you would need if you wanted to get to a 40% level of bachelor's degree attainment by 2030. Guess what? We have no chance in hell of getting there under any of the existing structures of the 4 waves of institutions that we presently have deployed. We're underperforming unless we admit only A students. By the way, we have 12,000 first-time, full-time freshmen. 6,000 come in with A averages. 6,000 come in with B averages because we've decided that hell will freeze over before we'll no longer admit students with B averages. And we know everything there is to know about the differences in their performance based on family income, background. We've been at this long enough. And we have markedly different outcomes, but we have markedly enhanced both outcomes through the introduction of technology, and I'll come back to a little of that. So this is an unbelievably daunting challenge. And our institutions, by the way, thousands of institutions, all of us worrying about our own little niches, trying to survive, trying to find the resources, trying to hire faculty, trying to do all the things that we're trying to do. There's no plan. There's no strategy, nor could there be. So there's no way to sort of plan your way out of this. So what prevents new models? These are big words used by organizational theorists. Isomorphic pressures. Everybody just wants to be like everybody else, replicating everybody else, and those pressures come from a particular academic culture, which is replicated, and is completely normative. That is, all future designs are a function of something in the previous design. Coercive bureaucracy. Now, almost none of you will guess that what I consider to be a coercive bureaucracy is, in fact, not the academic administrative bureaucracy. It's the actual academic disciplinary structure. You depart from that structure and you will not be accredited. You depart from that structure and you will not get this and you'll not get that. You depart from that structure and you may end up getting punished. That's coercive. And mimetic simplicity, on the left, mimetic simplicity is, well, listen, I'm doing my research, I got to worry about this, I'm really all in it for me. I was a faculty member also. I'm all in it for me, but on the departments, we'll just mimic. So departments tend to look alike. So, wave 1, colonial colleges, what I call Greek academies, Harvard, Princeton, Bowdoin. Bowdoin was founded in the late 18th century as one of the 3 colleges in what was then still Massachusetts. I was a trustee of Bowdoin College for many years. So these colleges are unbelievable. I'm not talking about Harvard University. Harvard College, Bowdoin College, Princeton College, each of these. Full immersion, high cost, low scale, all were religious in one way or another, or semi-religious in one way or another, and they were really modeled on Plato's Academy. Big thinking, big ideas, big theories, unbelievably intellectually focused. We move along, and in a second wave, particularly in the South, but also in Michigan, non-religious, what I call a-religious public academies were formed. These are just the early ones. University of Georgia was one of the first, 1785. North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, 1825. Michigan, 1818. These then, and then there were others that came along. Some of the HBCUs were added later as public colleges. The teachers' colleges were added into this category, this wave 2, public academies, public institutions, not research intensive yet. The community colleges were added in the 20th century into this category of public colleges, public institutions. So within this class of institution right now, some of these have left and become what I call a Wave 4 school, and I'll show you in a second, as research universities. What's the graduation rate of the non-research public universities in the United States for 4 years? It's under 38%. What's the 4-year graduation rate for the California State University system with 500,000 students across 23 campuses in the state of California? According to their own published stated data, it's 17.8%. That's the largest university in the United States with a 4-year graduation rate of 17.8%. We have a couple problems. Wave 3, the land-grant institutions, full immersion, medium cost, scale, but now something happened here. Some of these, Wisconsin, Penn State, Illinois, California, were all started as land-grants. Cornell was a privately financed land-grant that has public and private. MIT became a land-grant by choice in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So these evolved, and these were the first schools for which class and family income were not factors for admission. The sons and daughters of farmers and mechanics fought out and wrought out in 1862, the beginning of the Civil War, for the land grants to emerge, and then later for the 1890s to emerge. A whole new class of institution in the third wave. Then the fourth wave, made up of this institution. So Georgia Tech starts as a second wave school, not research grade, but a technical school, and then ultimately becomes a Wave 4 school. So Hopkins is the prototype of Wave 4, the first research university in the United States, the first PhD granting institution in the United States, 1876, built on a hybridization of the British model and the German model. Stanford also built from whole cloth as a result of philanthropy, Hopkins from philanthropy, University of Chicago from philanthropy, Harvard from Harvard College leaping up to the fourth wave, Columbia University, which was Columbia College, leaping up to the fourth wave. Illinois land-grant, Wave 3 school, leaping up to the fourth wave. I added Arizona State. We're like a late entrant to the fourth wave. We were a teacher's college, as was UCLA, until 1960. Converted from teacher's college to university between 1960 and 1980, started the process of becoming a research university in 1980. And the reason I'm walking you through this is that these evolutionary processes are dynamic and they're moving forward. And so we, by 1995, when we became Carnegie R1, moved to this fourth category, the fourth wave, the research universities of the United States. Full immersion, high cost, medium scale. That is, they don't scale. Full immersion. Immersion means us, right here. This is immersion. I'm talking to you, I can see you, I can touch you, we can interact with each other, look at each other's eyes, we understand what's going on. It's the most fantastic form of human communication that exists. This is full immersion. And I'm going to walk you through that contrasted with digital immersion just in a second when I talk about how one then moves forward into what we call the fifth wave. The fifth wave. Now, amazingly, the U.S. has been unbelievably innovative with these four waves. We have fantastic colleges in Wave 1 still operating. Bowdoin, Williams, Amherst, Oberlin, Colorado College. Wave 2, fantastic public colleges and public universities. Wave 3, fantastic land grants. Wave 4, we are the pride of the planet. If aliens were to fly by someday, they'd say, if they loved us, they'd want to go to those Wave 4 schools, and if they hated us, they'd want to kill everybody at them, because they'd be, including you guys, because you would be the ones that could counter whatever technology they have. And so Wave 4 is fantastic. Wave 5, the campus now, full immersion and digital immersion. Cost, trying to lower the cost, because cost, it turns out, actually is a factor. Scale, all scales. Now, let me just put in a small little caveat here. I'm not suggesting, although I know the provost will want to do this, that Georgia Tech change its battle plans this month and decide that all of a sudden it's going to become a Wave 5 school. I'm not here as an evangelist. I'm not here suggesting that other Wave 5 schools emerge. I'm here suggesting that new forms of institutions need to emerge. to be able to address the social, economic, and cultural complexities that our nation faces, and that this is a possible pathway. So we are suggesting in our strategy at ASU is to be the exemplar across some dimensions, an exemplar, let's say, of a new type of institution operating in these immersive environments at this and lower cost and at all scales. Now, I'll just pause for a second, ask any of you, how would you do that? Because the standard issue public university chassis, the standard issue faculty culture, the biomimetic environment in which many of us live, can't do that. So you have to work on all levels: culture change, organization change, structural change, and, very importantly, the introduction of innovations and technology into that new approach. So, again, all of these forms exist, and all of them exist with eloquence. All of them are continuing to evolve. Has there possibly been a previous attempt at a Wave 5 variant in American higher education that recently failed? Anybody want to take a guess? The for-profits. Scale, different environments. Here's what they forgot. And by the way, they generally don't like me. Here's what they forgot. They forgot the faculty. They forgot the spirit of knowledge. They forgot the core of knowledge. They forgot who we are and what we do as faculty members. It's like to them, it was just a commodity. All you needed was just a person or a robot or some kind of device or some kind of tool to translate. Now, I'm not throwing them all under the bus. Hopefully there's some out there that are thinking differently, because their model did give them access to something that we don't have access to, which is massive amounts of capital. And at the scale of the problem, you need massive amounts of capital. So, I'm going to walk you through this idea, what I call the teaching and learning realms that we have then modified into our culture at ASU, and then sort of walk through what they mean. So at the heart of our culture at ASU and at the heart of the culture of a Wave 5 university is the same thing at the heart of the culture of all of the other waves. This is a really essential point, and I lose a lot of people when I talk about this sometimes right here. So, Bowdoin College, sitting in Brunswick, Maine, has at the heart of the 150 to 180 faculty members that they have the pursuit of knowledge, the understanding of knowledge, the sanctity of knowledge, adding to the stock of knowledge, understanding the stock of knowledge, deriving from that stock of knowledge wisdom, insight, perspective, storing, synthesizing, analyzing, creating, and transferring knowledge at the core. The Wave 5 school that I'm talking about, the Wave 5 university that I'm talking about, does not separate from that. That's what the profit seekers separated from. Why? It's unbelievably complicated. It's unbelievably expensive. And almost no one understands it except people that are in on the process itself. And so that core of knowledge, think of it as, you can pack it, like a black hole, you can pack anything in there. So that's the core. Then we have decided within the structure of our idea of a Wave 5 university, what we call Realm 1, full immersion, on-campus, technology-enhanced learning. Not a little bit of technology-enhanced learning. Technology-enhanced learning everywhere where it affects and changes student outcomes, everywhere where it levels the playing field, particularly in what we refer to as gateway or killer courses, where perhaps your high school wasn't as good as another person's high school, even with your A, even with your 3.9 incoming grade point. You may not have the deepest understanding of calculus that maybe you need. And so think of everything over here as the university. These are our schools, our institutes, our programs, our library. We have been systematically altering everything. The faculty have become fantastic designers of their own fate. 17 or so new transdisciplinary schools. The School of Human Evolution and Social Change, the School of Social and Family Dynamics, the School of Earth and Space Exploration, the School of Sustainability, the School of Transborder Studies, a School of Life Sciences involving, there's nothing unique about these things, but they're highly unusual. Elimination of all 11 of our engineering departments, the building of 5 Grand Challenge engineering schools, research institutes, libraries, everything focused on the creation of this full immersion on-campus technology-enhanced learning environment. Trying to add to that core of knowledge, trying to do everything that we can to compete against every other fixed body university, every other full immersive on-campus university. We are doing everything we can to compete, including, I got to get back tomorrow for our football game against Utah. We haven't given that stuff up. All these realms that we're engaged in, all the realms that most of you are engaged in, we're engaged in all of those realms, but we're making slight design modifications in how we do it. Technology, tools. So we built a unit called Ed Plus at ASU. It has a core staff of 150. It has 160 individual learning technology partners from the private sector, integrated into multiple levels of learning platforms. All of that's being deployed to the extent that one thing that we've seen in our environment is that as we have grown the university and further diversified the university, for a university that admits A and B students, we now have the highest graduation rate in 4 years among all of those schools, with an 85% improvement in our graduation rate. Largely attributable to structure, culture, and technology, and the use of technology in the enhancement of learning, the enhancement of advising, hundreds of courses, dozens of tools, which have allowed us to make these things happen. Now, once we figured out how to do this, we said to ourselves, well, is there anything else we can do? And there's nothing unique about what I'm talking about, but perhaps the scale. So we decided that there could be realm 2, digital immersion. Oh, in this realm, in realm 1 right now, we have 73,000 students with us in full immersion environment. 13,000 graduate students and 60,000 undergraduate students. And our research expenditures this year are $510 million without a medical school, and accelerating rapidly, very rapidly. All going on within this environment. So then in realm 2, digital immersion, online technology-enhanced learning, we decided, would our existing faculty, if empowered by technology and flexibility and incentives and adaptability, would they then want to launch degree programs, both undergraduate and graduate degree programs? So lo and behold, they were empowered by this technology and empowered by their self-focus and their own pathway, and they now have 140 degree programs with 25,000 students pursuing degrees, 18,000 full-time equivalents. Just to put that number into perspective. All since 2011. Those students are 10 years older, mostly women, mostly started college and never finished, and are representative of the 20 million plus people in the US, more than, that started college and never finished. 6,000 of those students are in our program with Starbucks, where we have agreed that if you work with Starbucks, you work for Starbucks, and you enter our programs, and you're admissible to our programs, and you're admitted to a university degree program, and you advance, you'll be able to graduate at no cost. What's the one lesson that we've learned in this little program that we started with Starbucks? Some of it was demonstrated in the election outcome yesterday. The level of anger of these individuals is off the charts. I don't mean manifestations of anger at us. The level of anger of individuals who started college, this has been our biggest lesson that we've learned, and didn't finish, is that they're done with the system. They have debt, They have burden. They have sorrow. So we had to go back and rethink what we were doing relative to reaching out to them. It wouldn't be just, here's your degree program. Good luck. Now, not every university, I'm not suggesting that every university take on this population, but I would suggest that if some universities don't, that the kind of social outcomes that some of us might not be too happy with, as more and more technology is put into the marketplace and more jobs are disrupted, and the level of education is still not enough to keep up, not enough to keep up, not enough to keep up. I don't know, all of us that are involved, including tech and others in autonomous vehicles, we're excited about it. Everybody's excited about it. I don't know if anybody's thought much about the 3 to 5 million people that won't be working anymore. And if they're not educated in certain ways. And so, again, I'm not suggesting that this is for everybody, but I am suggesting that this has allowed us, by the way, same faculty, same program, same degree. So we spent 2 years building the first ABET accredited EE degree for undergraduates, now deployed with 1,000 students. Research active faculty, research capable faculty, a couple thousand students that we had in the full immersion environment. The same faculty built the degree, launched the degree, oversees the courses, is doing well. We now have more humanities majors online in philosophy and history than we do face-to-face. Some of our most popular activities. We also then realized that Realm 2 then enabled us to think about things in a different way. So we built this technology platform at the university level called Ed+. And it allowed us to start thinking about, we didn't do any MOOCs when the MOOCs came out on purpose, from our perspective. They didn't lead to degrees. They were mostly geared for college graduates. And they didn't lead to credits. And so we waited a while and then built this Realm 3 digital immersion, massively open, technology enhanced. We've launched one project in this space called the Global Freshman Academy. The first 6 courses of that academy have 200,000 students from 192 countries, including a college algebra class that we've done, which is a self-guided, artificial intelligence enhanced, individualized, learning-based platform, where if you complete the class, you will be brought to the level, on your own, you will be brought to the level of an A-level student mastery of that subject, college algebra. Because it will tirelessly take you back all the way, if necessary, to anything that you didn't know, to move you through the learning environment in the way best suited for you to learn. So that's an example of a class. Astronomy 111, another class that we taught there, another class that we taught in evolution of human beings, or Homo sapiens, all that's in what we call our Realm 3. 200,000 learners, we've got about 7 classes deployed. We have 30 classes under development right now. We're not sure how this will work, but we do know that this is changing everything. So we have this now as a pathway into the university. If you take one of these, if you take 3 of these classes and get an A in these classes, you're admitted. You can take it for free. You can take it not for free and get an evaluation. You can take it for free and get a grade. You can take it for free and then work your way up to master the material, then get the grade, and then pay for credit. So it's a new approach. The last realm is the realm that we have probably. So how many of you have tracked the Gates Foundation's what are called active or adaptive learning courses? Anybody tracking those? Anybody involved in any of those? So I'll just pick one of them. So the Gates Foundation thought that there might be some ways in which these devices could be useful to learning. And so why doesn't some teams get together and build some courses that you play as games, that by the time you're done with the course, you've mastered whatever the subject is. So there's 7 of them that are funded, and in this realm we're involved in 5 of them, and we're the co-leads in the science course. And in the science course, the way that it basically works is using what we call education through exploration. That's a methodological approach, using the human desire for exploration, using the iPhone or the advanced smartphone technology or your laptop technology as your exploration platform. You become engaged in an exploration process designed in a way that by the time you're done with the exploration game, you can pass the, and this might not sound like much, but we think it's something, the Cambridge A-level exams in physics, biology, or chemistry at the A level, A-star level, by just completing the game. And it's a science-based thing. Our Astrobiology Institute is involved. Smart Sparrow as a startup company is involved. Some others are involved. And so it's a fourth realm of engagement. And what we do know is that what we've become convinced of is that there is beyond that, we don't know what's going to happen. All we do know is that the environment that we have then been able to establish in realm 1, complete reconceptualization of our library. We hired the Georgetown provost as our university librarian, and he's involved in a 5-year project to completely modify the entire idea of the library for both the immersion student and the digital immersion student. What we do know is that learning and learning outcomes now are something that we have to do more thinking about. So we're not quite exactly sure what the best way to teach certain things may be 20 years from now. And so we're putting a huge amount of energy into what we call the to be determined, because of what we're learning in the feedback loop that we have from the students that we have in each of the environments that we've got going on. Now, in this part of the institution, we have just under 400 undergraduate majors. So our undergraduate major in music composition is technology enhanced, but it's also extremely small classes working with conductors, working with others to advance those particular skills in that particular learning environment. So we're also changing the idea of what our product is. So is our product a music major, an engineering major, a business major, or are those pathways? And so we're coming to the conclusion, but not quite at the conclusion yet, that they are pathways. That actually our objective is to see if we can create what we refer to as master learners, a person capable of learning anything. So we've seen a massive increase in this realm, massive increase in double and triple majors, 2 majors, 2 languages, cross-cutting majors between technical and non-technical disciplines, dramatic increase in numbers of courses taken, types of courses taken, dramatic increase in entrepreneurial behavior, companies started while a student, almost 300 spun out last year by students. We changed the semester over here to 6 academic modules per year. Fall A, Fall B, Spring A, Spring B, Summer A, Summer B. Might not sound like much, but some courses now are offered over a 15-week period. Some are offered over a 7.5-week period, the same course. Different method of teaching, different level of intensity. So you take the second half of the fall semester to work on your engineering design project, and the first half of the fall semester where you're completely immersed in unbelievably intensive learning environments. And so these changes in structure and design have then also facilitated whole new ways to think about the way the faculty work. So we've seen dramatic changes in faculty behavior, dramatic changes in the way faculty are working, and significant enhancement and improvement. Partly, I could even say, by my even still being president, I still exist. These are all things that you could have been easily killed off as a part of, as a college president. A dramatic change in morale, a dramatic change in spirit and connection and connectiveness to an overall mission. So we actually derived in the last 14 years, we didn't have a charter. We started as a generic teachers college in what was then the territory of Arizona. And we now have a specific charter. And the charter says that we will not measure ourselves based on who we exclude, but who we include and how they succeed. That our research will not be measured only for its benefit to the academic world or the scientific world, but to the public that we serve. And that we'll take responsibility for the outcome of the community that we are a part of. Now, we're not suggesting every university needs that kind of charter. We are suggesting that some universities need that kind of charter. Some public universities need that kind of charter. And so what we've been able to do is to advance what we hope is a catalytic process of a prototype of a new kind of public university, what we call a Wave 5 university. We don't know what to call this wave, so right now we're calling it National Service University. Capable of operating at scale, adjusting quickly, capable of dealing with very high levels of diversity, very high levels of differentiation of incoming students, with the objective being that our engineering graduate, or whoever the graduate happens to be, will then also be as good as any engineering graduate. Just take engineering just for a second. So in 2006, we had several visits by Chuck Vest, then the president of the National Academy of Engineering, and he said he was hopeful that some universities would pick up on the idea of building grand challenge engineering schools. And Tech, by the way, is a school that we hold up as a global class engineering school, among other things at Georgia Tech. Global class. We hold ourselves up as what we call American class, national class. That's like one level lower. Now, we're very young. Engineering is almost brand new as a discipline, but in 2006, we had 11 traditional departments, and the president of the National Academy of Engineering comes in and says, well, could you build these grand challenge schools? So we spent 2 years kind of arguing about it and so forth and so on, and somehow the argument either ended or we decided to move ahead. And so we created these 5 grand challenge schools, nothing exciting about their titles other than they were very different. So the thought was that could this different orientation attract more people to engineering, a broader spectrum of people? And before I say this, I know that Georgia Tech's done a fantastic job with creating significant diversification in its engineering programs. We were less good at that time along those dimensions. So in 2008, we had 8,500 face-to-face fully immersion engineering students, and this semester we have 16,000 fully immersion face-to-face engineering students. We had a 68% freshman retention in 2008. We have a 90% plus freshman retention right now through the focus on these new methods and new technologies. We also have 4,000 online engineering students, in addition to the 16,000 face-to-face students. Also 4 times the level of research over a longer period of time, but in the dynamic of this period of change. And so more diversity on all dimensions, gender, ethnicity, family income. And so that's an example of just in realm 1 and realm 2 in one of our 17 colleges, the kinds of changes that this kind of approach has been able to enable. So the imperative, at least for this new wave, is innovation. Again, don't take offense. I always get people saying, what are you saying, we don't innovate? No, I'm not saying that. Every school that's represented here, you're innovating, you're adjusting, you're adapting, and so forth and so on. I'm suggesting that a Wave 5 school would be one in which the rate of innovation relative to its perhaps scaled mission would need to be particularly acutely positive. So, that's the story, in case you were wondering what was going on over there by Sky Harbor Airport in Phoenix. So, thank you.
You concentrated on degrees as a metric, but the economy needs people to keep learning through their entire careers. So what is your view on how universities should help with that?
So that's a very good question. In the 42 minutes, I'd be happy to talk till midnight if you guys want to stay, but we have a shorter time frame. So we're working on a range of projects. So we have a range of projects where we're attempting to build digital identities for anyone that's in the workforce. Once they're digital identities, these are funded projects at millions of dollars each. We've been overwhelmed with projects. We recently have, it's been funny, we've been receiving grants recently from foundations where we're not even writing proposals. They're just sending money. They're saying, just keep doing this, keep doing this, keep doing this. And we're like, okay. And so we're working on digital identities to connect people to even middle skill, that's pre-college skills, to pathways of learning, and then pathways of employment. The employer can see the digital identity of the potential worker. The potential worker can see the requirements from the employer. The educational opportunities then are lined up for the same job, and the pathways are put in place. And so it's like a a brokerage kind of capability that's interactive. So we're working on that. We're working on other kinds of tools, other kinds of projects. Basically, coming out of these kinds of things, our Global Freshman Academy, when we're done with it, will have 30 courses. Those courses will be broken down not only to help people to do a freshman year in college, prepare for a freshman year in college, lower the cost of their freshman year in college, or whatever it is that they want to do. Those will also be broken down into individual sub-clusters of courses that then could prepare someone for a pathway to an engineering technology educational experience, or even find themselves certified for employers in certain kinds of things. And so we may not do all of that ourselves, but we will be doing the technology, the content, the platforms, and then working with as many partners as we can. So the short form answer is we are thinking about broader workforce issues than just producing college graduates. And then on the other side of things, lifelong learning, just backing up a little bit to the realm chart, the one thing that we do know is true here is that with this as our full expression of our knowledge, and in all these arenas and all these platforms at the scale that we're working at, we can partner with almost anyone, we can link with almost anyone, we can scale with almost anyone. And so we've been able to take on scaled kinds of things with other kinds of partners, community colleges, employers, other kinds of folks with no additional sweat from our faculty. So the faculty have a buffer between them and all of this, and it's this unit that we've built and the teams that we've built of knowledge curators, knowledge navigators, instructional designers, technology platforms, technology-capable people, and then all the technology partners that we brought in, and so then that allows us to be able to operate in these different modalities. Yep.
Universities aren't always known as places that welcome big changes. You talked a lot about what you're doing, but not as much about the process that you took to get there. Can you speak a little bit to how you as an institution determined this as a particular path forward and how you built consensus around that with the people at your institution?
Right, so the principal method, I don't know if I could reduce it down to a few sentences, but in 2002, I basically asked I asked a series of questions on my appointment. Why are we here? Are we here so that someday we can be basically the next clonal replicant of UCLA? So UCLA was the teachers' college called the Los Angeles State Teachers College in another big western county that grew for some reason, growing rapidly. They became a university 40 years before we did, 1920 versus 1960. They were a teachers' college about the same time as we were. So we're basically, was my assignment to basically say, well, what did they do between 1920 and 1960 at UCLA, and then just replicate that, which would have meant along the way, build a medical school, knock out the bottom half of your high school admission class, hire a great faculty, say that you're really smart because you only admit smart students, and that your excellence is now a function of who you left at the gate. And so we decided not to do that. And then that kind of rhetoric then matched with a series of what we call design aspirations. So I proposed a series of design aspirations about how the university might be designed, and then we began what became a multi-year discussion. In every case, attempting to do something with the faculty, and this will sound perhaps rude, if not even crude, and I apologize for that, it's not intended, freeing them from their inherited designs over which they had no control. So the empowerment of the faculty as designers. So if you're at ASU now and you say, we've gotten together and we'd like to form the new school for the future of innovation in society, now open at ASU, hiring faculty from around the country. If it's a good idea and we work our way through it, done. Nobody else on the rest of the university that says that's the stupidest thing that I've ever heard of can block that from happening. Because why would we allow some cool idea that some group of faculty members want to evolve that we've thought through and worked our way through to be blocked by someone who just says, well, we can't be that. And so there's a change in the veto power. And so one faculty member cannot veto a trajectory of a group of other faculty members in the environment. And so we outline design aspirations, and then hopefully I think the path has been to empower the faculty to act and behave as designers. It's not a perfect process, far from it. It's not that it's not fraught with challenges and difficulty, it is. But it's been a process that we've been at long enough that we've seen some fruit from that, including new ideas, including new centers that some folks are a part of, right? that have come out of some of these designs and some of these structures. A couple of engineering research centers, National Science Foundation, STC that we've got going, new institutes that we've built. Not that those things aren't going on at other places also, but they're going on at our place at about 5 times the normal speed. In fact, we use speed as one of the terms that we talk about all the time. So when we did go to the faculty, we'd say, well, what would you like? Give us the design that you'd like your world to be. You have 1 semester to think it through, or 2 semesters to think it through, not 14 years. And so that changed the clock speed. The change in the clock speed helped us to move in different ways, and so that's part of it.
So on the Realm 3 adaptive
Yeah.
course that you described,
Yeah.
is that Watson-based? Can
No,
you
it's not.
describe that?
We are connected to the Watson stuff in some of the stuff that we're doing, so we are using Watson where Watson is useful. Watson's not yet useful in a lot of things that we're doing. So the Realm 3, well, actually Realm 4 is the adaptive course, that's the science course with Smart Sparrow funded by the Gates Foundation. We're not using Watson for that.
Okay.
We're building our own curriculum, our own activities, but we do have connections in other parts of what we're doing with Watson and other tools and other AI tools and other things.
So, somewhere along the way, can you talk about accreditation challenges for some of this as well?
So what's interesting about accreditation challenges is that, so we've been through this. So we had ABET accreditation necessary for every rearrangement we did in engineering, ABET accreditation for our online EE degree, undergraduate degree. Good, check, check, check. Then we had university accreditation. So here was the biggest problem that we had in accreditation. I almost got in a fist fight over this with this dude from Michigan. And so, and so here's what he says. He says, I've come in, he was the only one on our university accreditation, our Higher Learning Commission, that's who accredits us out of Chicago. So it was our 10-year whatever, they come in, the whole thing, we're going through the whole thing. And the guy goes, I don't even believe this data. I don't believe it. I'm like, yeah, that's what we do. We're paid to lie. We're paid to lie. That's what we like to do. We like to make up stuff about kids and lie to you about it. And so he could not believe the math data. By the time he left, he believed it. But when he came, he didn't believe any of it. And then he sat down, he saw the data, he saw the student records, he saw the outcomes, he saw the tests, he saw all this stuff. And then he was like, how did you do this? It was sort of a different kind of thing. I said, well, we got this technology company to work with us and this tool, and we stole this from Carnegie Mellon, and we borrowed that from VPI, and I don't know what we stole from Georgia Tech, probably everything we could get our hands on, integrated it all into our math courses that we were teaching at the freshman level and the sophomore level, the killer courses levels, and we got these huge positive outcomes. And so that's what he had a hard time. And so we've done very well on the accreditation processes so far.
Michael, sensitive question. Is there a difference in the completion rates or the academic performance rates between the minorities and the non-minorities? And are they as well distributed amongst your high-tech and low-tech majors as the non-minorities?
So it's not sensitive because we're straight up about this, and so I'll pick for the second question first, which is, do we have a good distribution of minority students across all the STEM majors? The answer is yes, and ever increasingly so. And so we're very excited about that. But we do have differential outcomes still. So we've set an internal goal that we are failures until a student's family income, which is actually a better predictor of success than ethnicity. But family income, ethnicity, race, whatever criteria you want to put on the table, is no longer a predictor of success. If we admit you to the university based on our admission standards, you will no longer be able to predict a student's success based on those factors. Now, to do that and make that work has been very challenging. We've seen, here's what's happened to us. I don't have so if you grade 8 by family income, all of our outcomes, if you then segment between A students and B students by family incomes, we've studied all of this. If you do A students coming in, B students coming in, family income and ethnicity, and you look at all, and so what we've got is we have lifted every outcome of every group, but the students from higher family income situations are doing better. That is the slope. So all slopes of the entire curve has gone up. The slope has become steeper. So everybody's performing better, but those students from higher income families are doing even better, like off the charts better. And so now so I'll pick a group. So we have a large number of Native American students, more than 2,000 Native American students. We're one of the largest producers of Native American graduates in the country. We produce more Native American student graduates than all 9 undergraduate campuses of the University of California combined, just to put that into perspective. And so, but we still have a terrible attrition rate. The attrition rate is only partially explainable by family income and only partially explainable by academic preparation. There is another variable that we use a broader term, in quotes, cultural differences, that we're deeply trying to understand. I'll give you one example. We had a student who came in on a full ride scholarship, everything paid for, from a Native American tribal nation reservation in Arizona, about 4 hours away from our campus. For whatever reason, when she got ill or injured, she thought she needed to go to the Indian Health Service hospital emergency room in Phoenix rather than our own student health service. So she goes over there and they tell her she's got to go back to her tribal hospital on her family's reservation, 4 hours away. So she starts commuting for her medical care, something she didn't need to do. We didn't know this. Her grades go down, she loses her scholarship. By the time I meet her, she's an angry $27,000 in debt student struggling to stay alive in the university. I don't know how to explain how we tackled that problem. Now, we solved her problem and fixed her problem. And she's on track and has graduated and is doing great. But that is that's what she thought that she needed to do. And so these are things that we have not yet mastered. And so we're working to, now we're doing much better, but we're far from mastered.
Yes, thank you very
We
much.
partner with everybody.
I'm the president of one of the 3 universities of technology in France, located at the north of Paris, 80 kilometers. And I thank you for your very nice presentation, but I would like to...
Which town? Lille?
Compiègne,
Yes.
80 kilometers north.
My wife
it's
is-
in,
my
in
wife
the
is
same
French.
region, Hauts-de-France,
Yeah.
Hauts-de-France
Yeah.
region. But I would like to ask you questions about challenges university are faced, and you didn't mention these challenges. The challenges of globalization, of the need of interculturality in order to produce and educate, we say in English, international-minded people.
Mindset, right?
Yes, mindset people. The need of hybridation, nature of fields which are needed in order to take into account very global challenges, transport, energy, water, food, etc. And also an important challenges in order to educate people which are good technicians, good technologists people, but also who are able, to think the technological development from the point of view of environment protection, social protection, jobs, and so on. So you didn't say much about these different challenges and the way your vision can be used for this.
So first, we had 8 design aspirations that were laid out as the catalyzing design goals of the faculty, and the 8th was global engagement. And so it meant to engage globally on everything, problems, connections, cultural connections. We have 11,000 international students from 140 countries. We had, at the time that we laid these goals out, about 1,800 international students, so that's a dramatic change. We have projects and programs on, and activities now on 6 continents. We didn't have that before. We have teams of faculty and students working in all of these dimensions. And so this technology platform is closely related to all of that. In fact, I'm going back to Phoenix to go to this football game tomorrow, be there Friday, Saturday. I leave to go to Marrakesh, Morocco, where I'll be for a couple of days as a part of an international team involving our university and a bunch of other institutions that you'll read about next week in the paper, about a series of conservation initiatives. So we've also taken sustainability as a value and made it a university goal. We started a School of Sustainability, a Global Institute of Sustainability. We have 400 faculty members involved in that. We're about half off the grid during the day now. From solar power, we'll be off the grid day and night by the time we're done in terms of our own institutional value system. We've integrated curricular activities into those kinds of things. And so to the short version of your question, value-oriented, culturally broad, the things that you're talking about are a part of all of this, both in the curriculum, the curricular design, the project activities, the things that we're advancing. And so we're a long way down that path from where we started, and these innovations and these tools and these techniques actually empower and enable us to do that in ways that we couldn't even have imagined. One of the not-to-be-named foundations that just funded us gave us enough money to put several $1 million onto 2 planning projects. One of the planning projects is a humanitarian educational platform that will be used in refugee and disrupted communities and deployed at scale, so we're working on that right now. And the second, Stanford University, how many of you know about Stanford University's online high school? It's $22,000 a year, it has about 800 students, and those are students largely from wealthy families paying the $22,000 a year because maybe their child is involved in international swimming or some type of competition and they can't go to school and so forth. So we decided to build a digital high school that we're not quite done yet with that will be scalable, ultra low cost, and then augment educational opportunities among displaced peoples, among immigrant communities. And so what's happened in all of our work that we've been doing is that we've been able to take value-oriented, if you looked at the rest of our design aspirations, and build them in across the kinds of things that we're working on. And what we're getting now in those things is huge participation from broad communities of faculty members coming from different parts of the university, driven by exactly the kinds of issues that you're talking about. And I'd be happy to get you more on some of those things if that would be useful.
Let me thank President Crow for a wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.